Hey everybody, I'm Rhonda Smith. You know me as a bass player. I'm here at Sweetwater, and today I'm going to answer some of your social media questions. From GLM Jazz, when did you start playing your instrument? I started playing bass probably when I was about 11 years old. And I had an older brother who is 15 months older than me, and he brought a bass home one day and told me not to touch it. So that started everything for me. And I've been playing ever since, and I was just infatuated with the instrument and in complete competition with my brother at that age. So he brought the perfect thing home. Thank God it wasn't a clarinet or something else. The Talon Anderson asked, what was the first full song that you learned on bass? I would have to say that was Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. Probably an excellent beginner for anybody, and one of the easiest songs for me, but I remember it like it was yesterday, for sure. Great question. Shaggy Can Shred asked, who was your favorite artist to work with and why? That would have to be Prince. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but he was the most amazing all-round entertainer, and surprisingly enough, I learned more bass stuff from him, who most people know as a guitar player, than I've ever learned from anybody else. So it was amazing, and so many life lessons I learned from him, and in the probably close to a 13-year span on and off that I was blessed enough to be able to play with that man. He was a genius. So I was really, really happy to do that and to be in the MPG and that family. And that's a really great question. Shaggy Can Shred. Nick R.C. asked, what was it like pressure-wise to play with Prince? It got better over time, Nick, but at the beginning it was pretty overwhelming when I first went into his camp. And that was 1996 when I first met him, and it was huge going into huge tours all of a sudden, and I just came from Canada at that point, and doing all the major U.S. television shows and just starting off like that, just from, I wouldn't say from 0 to nothing, but probably from 20 to 100. It was very, very overwhelming, but it got better over time. But Prince was always known to be really tough, and I remember one time in particular we were doing some filming for a television show or something, and where some artists that I've worked with in the past would come up and maybe they'll do a prayer before a show, or they'll give everybody a hug and say, have a great show. Well, I remember this one particular time he came up to all of us and he said, don't screw up. So that was tough. Great question. Okay, so here's a question from Made This to Keep Track of My Pedals. Okay. What bass or other instrument or piece of gear will you never part with, and why? I would say that is my PRS 4-string Gary Granger private stock bass. I love this bass to death. It's like a piece of my hand. The first time I tried it, I loved it. There weren't a lot that were around at that time because they were kind of special order, and I was lucky enough in Burbank to be able to try it in their showroom that Gary Granger let me borrow one of his. And as I always say, you never give a woman something that you want back, because Gary never got it back from me. And Paul was gracious enough to talk him into making him another one. But that would be my answer to that, my 4-string PRS Gary Granger private stock bass. Great question. Owen K. 05314 asked, is investing in a pedal board as important on bass as opposed to guitar? I think it is. Owen. Maybe not as much, because I think when people first start playing, it's a little bit more out of the norm for a guitar player. when he first starts playing, to play with absolutely no pedals, to play dry all the time, where a bass player can get away with that when they're first playing. But I think once you've played for a while, you're going to want to have some things. You're maybe going to want to start with a chorus, maybe an octave divider, maybe a distortion, depending on the type of tone that you're, or the type of style of music that you're playing. It's really going to depict what you're doing. And maybe if you're soloing a little bit more, I love to use a tap delay all the time. So I don't think it's abnormal, and I think it's going to bring out, it's going to bring your ears out a little bit more, and it's going to let you hear some other things in the instrument and yourself. And and to just name a few, some of the pedals that I absolutely love are Jimmy Dunlop pedals, MXR. That's at Jim Dunlop USA. For instance, their Carbon Copy Deluxe. I love that tap delay. I love their Bass Chorus Deluxe, which I have on the floor here. And I absolutely love their bass envelope filter. I think it's one of the best in the business. So definitely check out MXR stuff and tell them Rhonda sent you. Okay, great question. Tyler Linder 925 asked, if you can only play one bass for the rest of your life, which one are you choosing? Again, Tyler, I got to go back to my PRS Gary Granger private stock, especially my Tequila Sunrise. If I had to pick it over the great fretless that I have, I would probably take the one with the frets in it. I love this bass. It's a piece of me. So check them out when you get a chance. I think they're absolutely fabulous and amazingly well made. Great question. HFM.db asked, bass for 5 years, still don't know the fretboard. What should I do? I think a great exercise for that is to start to know your, what I call bass boxes, or the 5 pentatonic positions. This is a great way, especially as a 4-string or even a 5-string player, to know your grids, know your positions and how everything lines up, because one always follows the other. They're always in the same order, and it's going to open up a lot of things for you on the top of the neck, on the bottom, and in the middle. And also another great thing to do is to do your scales. Do your scales in 2 octaves and spread them out, maybe 4 notes per string or 3 notes per string with a slide, and have it go up the neck this way, straight forward, and the other way, and a lot of those exercises will really help you a lot. And the other way is to identify notes. Take yourself through some things where you identify what a note is. Put your hand on any note on the neck and figure out what it is. That'll also help you a lot. Great question. And JRick-Bass42 asked, what's the best way to reach your dream being a bass player, and how to go about it? I think the best way is to just do it because you love it. Everybody's different. I don't think there's one road to Eden. I think that you need to practice because you love it, and love to practice and just see where the bass is going to take you. Certain things, there's some very simple things, I think, like they say, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, like I always tell myself. Be on time, learn the music, respect the music, and just get along with everybody. And those simple things can take you a long way. And just enjoy your instrument. I've got some new music coming out, and I definitely want everybody to check out my latest single, Won't Come Back, and my latest music video, Won't Come Back. I've got some new music coming out and some new tours coming out starting in May with Mr. Jeff Beck. We're going to be going overseas and lighting these fires up again, these musical fires out, and bringing some musical love and healing to everybody that we've been waiting so long to do. So hopefully everybody's ready for that, because we are. With such a master, with such a vast catalog of music, that's a really hard question to answer, but I think that you have to start with Purple Rain, which really started to make him the household name that he was, and along with the movies. So I'd have to go with that classic. It's such an amazing song, it's such an amazing guitar solo, and such an amazingly delivered vocal. It's a classic. Some of my most amazing influences, especially when I was younger than when I started, was definitely Jaco Pastorius made a difference for me to be able to hear this man. He was absolutely amazing and just changed the face of bass. I'd also say Stanley Clarke was amazing for me at a young age to be able to hear bass up front like that, and bass being the focal point of music solo-wise too and melody-wise really changed the way that I thought about stuff. Also, cats like Geddy Lee from Rush was very instrumental when I was younger, starting up. He was a great bass player. Chris Squire. So many, but I'd say that probably those four made a big influence on my playing. Absolutely. Ooh, so many things to say, but absolutely, I love to cook, believe it or not. I love to do finance, and I love to help my peers with finance and my musician friends with finance and show them stuff that they can do. I probably would have been into finance if I wasn't into music. I believe in compound interest in time and making our lives a lot easier as musicians, because I don't think that we get the best representation through our unions and everything else. And there's not a lot of examples to help us, and we're so dedicated at our instruments and everything else that if we know to do other things, we'll do it. I also like to weight lift and to do a lot of sports. I love to play tennis, and I love to hang out with my friends. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for your questions. I had such a blast answering them all, for real. Thanks again to Sweetwater for having me, and don't forget to check out my bass lesson on the Sweetwater YouTube channel. See you guys later.